The Haunted Severn River Inn of Washigo, 2002. I was being called to facilitate in a large conference up north. Pam and I were on the road to a great adventure. I felt so excited and honored to be called to do this. Now we were just one night away from boarding the train heading north. I had a feeling it was going to be the experience of a lifetime. We had originally planned to stay at the Washigo Inn, but it was under renovations. The receptionist recommended we stay at the Severn River Inn instead. We finally found it, tired and ready for a restful night's sleep at the charming old inn. It was nice and close to the Via Rail train station for the next morning. We awaited a 24-hour train trip. A whole day on a train. I couldn't wait. Such a great way to see the country. The Severn River Inn was a fine old inn on a picturesque riverfront, so calming and soothing. We decided to grab a bite to eat on the back porch overlooking the river. The waitress handed us our menus and we started to read them when I glanced up. I noticed an incredible glow coming off the rooftop that soon engulfed the whole building. It was a violet-purple color, the aura of the inn. I then noted a young woman in a long dress with her hair swept up in bun, walking along an upper porch that didn't exist today. Her dress was a beautiful blue and her hair was auburn. She looked like she'd just stepped out of the late 1800s. She was overlooking the people having dinner, then turned and walked through the wall. I looked at Pam, who was now wide-eyed. She could tell I was sensing something. She asked me, "What are you seeing?" All I could say was, "We have company." I then gave her the details of what I just saw. Oh my, I thought, here we go. After dinner, we had to go for a walkabout. I showed Pam the violet rays that streaked into the sky from the roof. She could see them too. We heard children laughing and yet saw none. So, now we had to ask some questions of the locals. We started at the inn's restaurant. The waitress came up to us and before she could ask what we wanted, I asked, "Is anyone aware of any ghosts around here?" I thought I would be point blank about this. She then asked, "Why?" I had to tell her what I had just seen. She backed up from us, all the way to the kitchen, keeping full eye contact, then turned, screaming excitedly. The cook came out so fast and said to us, "I hear you have seen our ghosts." We were stunned. He was grinning from ear to ear and wanted to hear every detail. He then handed us a copy of a book called Haunted Ontario. We quickly skimmed through it as it was his personal copy. There was a bit of a story on this inn in the book, nothing we had ever heard of. It mentioned an original owner way back in the day named Ida. Again, we were shocked. The waitress and cook asked me a lot of questions. So with that all out in the open, I felt good. I was somewhat relieved. It was over and now we could rest. Or so I thought. That night, we took one last walk about the beautiful inn, inside and out. While making sure the car was locked, I turned to see the little lights that lit up a bush on the front lawn. When I looked again, I saw another incredible sight. The bush lights looked like they were arranged to spell out the name Ida. Pam could plainly see it too. We were in awe. So, before retiring, we're offered tea and cookies in a parlor outside of our room. We started talking about the name Ida, and instantly the lights blinked on and off. Pam repeated, "Ida." They flickered again. While talking to Pam, her teacup flew out of her hands with such a force. It was sent across her lap to a chair next to her. Thankfully, it was nearly empty. I had never seen Pam's eyes so huge, and I'm sure mine were too. We were in total shock. I wondered if we would make it through the night. This was only the beginning. We soon went to bed to try and sleep. I finally drifted off, but was awakened hearing a storm blowing in. The wind was howling at the windows with rain and hail pelting them. The thunder shook the windows. It was a bad storm for sure. Then I snapped awake, remembering that it had been such a nice clear sunset earlier. It couldn't possibly be storming like this now. I got up to make sure the window was shut, and as soon as I pulled back the curtain, I saw a totally peaceful, serene night. The only sound was crickets chirping. No wind, storm, or anything of the sort. I was really puzzled. Pam awakened too, saying, "What do you mean it's not storming out?" We were both confused. What storm were we hearing then? We had a train to catch very early, so we tried to go back to sleep, but it was getting most difficult. I was almost asleep when something went off under the bed. It was like someone was flicking a deck of cards under the bed, again and again and again. I was on my hands and knees with the lamp on the floor looking under the bed now. It stopped. We then just broke out in hysterical laughter. This was getting just ridiculous. Then Pam noticed someone had turned on the light in the hallway. The light came in under our locked door, appearing as if someone walked by. I thought it was nice to know the staff were still downstairs. It seemed comforting in the midst of all this strange activity. Or maybe they heard our loud laughing. It was around 11:30 p.m. and we then heard cutlery being sorted in the kitchen and the loud clanging of dishes, pots, and pans. All is well. It's just the staff. I comforted myself. I then fell asleep only to be awakened by the smell of smoke. It was so heavy that I knew something was very wrong. I woke up Pam to prepare to evacuate in case the building was on fire and got up and went out of the room. I knocked on other doors to see if they smelled the smoke too, but no one would answer. How can they sleep through that smell, I wondered. Then finding the smoke detectors on the ceiling active and none were going off. The smoke smell then faded away. Pam, she looked so perplexed. I hoped this was not frightening her. After talking, she seemed fine, so we finally got some sleep. We awoke the next morning looking forward to the continental breakfast. Pam started to tell the waitress about our interesting night. I will never forget the feeling that washed over me when the waitress said to us very seriously, "We were all locked up and gone out of here by 9:30 p.m. last night." We had been totally alone, not one other guest even. She insisted that no one could have been in through the night, as she had the keys. There was no way. We would have been locked in as well, with the only way out through a fire door. Then who turned on the lights? And who was doing dishes at 11:30 p.m. to midnight? When we told the waitress of the fire smoke smell, she was shocked and told us the original inn had burned down over 100 years ago around that time. She added that the remains of the old inn had been pushed into the river. That weekend, divers had been in and brought up many artifacts from that fire, just days before our visit. We then went back to our room to pack up and shower. We had to get to that train. I had a hot shower and now Pam was ready, towel over her shoulder. She went in the bathroom and shut the door. After a few minutes, I heard Pam yelling, "No water." As soon as Pam had gotten in the shower, that had just worked fine for me, the water shut off. I summoned help from a groundskeeper outside who was watering the garden. I told him we had no water all of a sudden. He said, "That seems odd. I have water here. If I have water here, you must have water there." So he shut off his hose and followed me upstairs, concerned. He checked the taps and there was no water. He then kindly offered Pam to use another suite's bathroom. But he was so confused. This is impossible. If this room has no water, the whole inn would be shut down as well. We were all dumbfounded. He could find no leak or any explanation of how this shower's water could be off. Instead, Pam decided to have a chat with the ghost Ida and said, "I have to leave today and I need to shower, but I promise I will return. Ida, I will come back to see you again." Would you believe it? The water came straight back on. The groundskeeper wanted to know how we got the water back on. Pam explained that she had a chat with Ida. We soon left with a fond farewell to the staff, who now felt like close friends. We met our train. What was to happen next is another coming story. Pam did return, as promised to Ida. All was nice and quiet, peaceful and calm. Her spirit felt everywhere. Terry Boyle was in contact with Pam, who loved hearing of our experience. Our story is written in his new book, Haunted Ontario Revisited. This story is on page 75 called The Trent Severn River Inn. This was just the beginning of an incredible adventure neither of us would soon ever forget. If we only knew what was in store next. As frightening as it was at times, I will never forget our laughter. Oh, the laughter. And Ida. Thanks for your interest. To be continued. Like and subscribe. More to come.